Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nest Talks. We're here with the chairman and legend of Nest and the co-founder, many titles. Kristoffer and
Mother of Dragons.
Sorry?
Mother of Dragons. No, there's like so many.
And we are digging into happiness, which is my favorite theme, I think, because that's at least actually maybe the most important in life, you know, like entrepreneurship and so on, building things, nice, co-living, awesome, but like if you're not happy, what's the purpose? So your definition of happiness, I would like to hear that.
My definition of happiness. I think, I think it's hard to like create a new definition of happiness. Like maybe it's what would make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's. I think it's I don't know. It's a little bit hard because like what you strive for in life is like you can say both happiness, but also drive and motivation. It's like a lot of it. And when it's funny when you're saying like what would make you happy in life, I'm thinking, okay, money, no, for one, but it is an enabler, so you can do a lot of things. And I'm thinking,
true.
but I could do so many cool things with like shitload of money, right? All these awesome projects. I don't know if they would make me happy. But the impact and the prospect of them kind of inspires me to some extent. But you can like have the biggest boat in the city and still be miserable, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very much for me. It's very much friends and freedom, and working with something that I'm extremely motivated about, because that like makes work fun, and it makes thinking about work fun, and like are you looking forward to going to work, and being motivated is very much something that makes you happy, or at least if you're sad, it's something you can bury yourself into, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's my top priority things in like
so
happiness.
how would then look a perfect day for you?
So perfect day, I think, is going to work and being motivated about going to work, but I think also having like a nice morning. I'm not very good at doing that. I had like a really good run at some point where I was like good at going to bed early and like getting up in the morning at like a nice good time at like 6 or 7 a.m. and then just like getting to work at 8 or 9 and like having time to eat breakfast and go and take a shower and stuff like that. Now I do most of this in the evening, and most of the times I don't have time for breakfast because of the stress, right? I don't have the mental capacity to do all these things. So I'm just like trying to get by in some extent, or at least in some areas, because I need a lot of sleep at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'd rather try and sleep as much as possible and then go to work. And I go to work I leave around 9, get there around 9:20, 9:30. So I think meeting in the day, like, and being motivated at work, and like having good time at work, getting up in a good manner, and like having breakfast and having a nice day of work, I think is definitely. And what is a nice day of work? I don't know. Working with things that I like find impactful, I think is what I prioritize highly. Is working with things where I can see that I bring other people joy, or I solve problems that people burn for, or that they feel help them in some way. I think that's very much what kind of makes me happy, is seeing that I solve other people's problems and making it easy for people to live, basically, or like do whatever they're doing. I think that's.
I really admire how you're so honest. You know, that's really beautiful. And it's not. I know we are sitting three guys, but it's really beautiful. Yeah. And actually, talking about that, like, so you're talking about like this stress that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So what do you do right now to prevent feeling that, and also to fight if it is right now, fight it, and also what can we do as your residents to help you and not stress you even more.
Yeah. So I think what I'm doing at the moment is both that I see a psychologist to like spar a lot with my feelings and my thoughts and stuff like that. It's been a big help and also to have someone to talk about the whole thing and how it works and affects me and stuff like that, and what should I do, and like a confident space, or like someone I can talk to in complete confidence. And also it's also been really like Nest has also been a big part like in helping me go through this whole thing. I've been talking a lot with people in Nest initially about like when I first started like being stressed, right? And also it helped a lot to hear that other people had experience with stress and I wasn't alone in this feeling like that. And hearing other people's perspective on it was very helpful. Because most people in our line of work, you can say, has experienced stress in one way or another. And it's been really helpful, and people have been really, really good and really supportive about it. And so that's been really nice, and has helped me a lot psychologically, because you don't want to feel like you're alone in this world with something, and making you. And feeling like you're alone or weird in the same sense, it's like, or weak for that matter, doesn't contribute to feeling like to the stress. If you feel like you're weak or you're like the only one who's feeling like that and stuff. So it's like, so feeling like you're like it's a normal thing to go through is a big part of like helps a lot. And also I've been like when my knee were working and stuff like that, I was doing some yoga and things like that, and that's actually been helping a little bit, and also been trying to meditate. It's hard to like do that because it requires a lot of willpower to do these kind of things, and it's not something you have a lot of when you're stressed. So I've been going in and out of it, and I've been having like some times where I did a lot of yoga, and where I meditated a lot. But it's been like it's having off as it's on and off times, and right now I'm completely out of all of it basically. I think this has helped me quite a lot in terms of like, but also just talking with people has helped me quite a lot to kind of work with it and battle it. But yeah, obviously I haven't gotten all the way because I'm still stressed, but it's hard to like. But you can't treat the symptoms unless you like actually remove the root cause of it.
Yeah. But you took the most important step and be open about it, and also that you're sharing it today with you guys. That's super valuable.
Yeah, I think that's maybe at least we've done this like at least make some episodes, and I think at least 3 of us. I don't know if you have dealt with it, but like I think 3 of us have dealt with stress. So it is something that maybe comes line in like running a business. It's really something that's hard to avoid, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially when you don't know anything about it, you know. Like I think when you start up, you're just like excited and really want to go for it, and you have all these ideas and you have all these projects you want to do at the same time. You can't choose, and then you end up being stressed about it. Yeah. So that's really something we need to also maybe educate people that like stress is something that you want to think about even maybe before you start your business. That okay, how can I not get stressed about things? Yeah.
That was this question: how much stress do I want in my life? Yeah, that should be the deciding factor.
But
that's a good point to keep in mind.
So actually, looking back at your whole. Okay, we asked that in the last. What's your biggest fear in
life or
in life in general?
So I think my biggest fear right now, or like with this whole stress thing, was just like it ending up being chronic. And I'm like not like it just because when you're stressed for a long period of time, your brain becomes more sensitive to things that stress you, because it's trying to protect you from stressful things. So you become even more aware of it. It's like it's the same thing as if your leg has been hurting for a very long time, then you become hypersensitive to like small things in your leg or something that you've been annoyed about. Then you suddenly become way more sensitive to that thing. So in the same way, your like body reacts much quicker to things that stress you. and thus you could end up not being able to do that much because your stress just hits you right away. And I think that's has been one of my biggest fears, being incapacitated or like being handicapped by the stress. Has also been one of the deciding factors in why I ended up now quitting. Is that I didn't want to end up it having like an impact on the rest of my life. It's because like it's simply not worth it.
No, that's true.
So that's also a pretty big. That's like a pretty big fear in that sense. Yeah, I think I think that's like my biggest fear at the moment, or that has been my biggest fear at the moment.
But I think it's a really smart decision that to go out of the venture and actually taking some time to really reset and recharge.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And now I'm also fearing that a bit, like talking about chronic stress and so on. It's not you had something in mind?
Okay, so right now, if you're quitting that company and you had such experiences, then you basically can design your life again. And also with resources and all the lessons learned, what is the process now? How do you think about it? What are the things that you're going to change?
Well, I'm gonna
take a big break, for sure.
Yes, for sure, a big break. Secondly, most likely starting something again, but in a much different way. I think much closer to what Buffer's doing, but also.
And what is Buffett?
Buffett is this fully transparent, fully remote company where all the employees work remotely, which is quite interesting.
Is this Buffett.com?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
So they do like social media things and stuff like that. But they have they're very progressive in terms of how they have their culture and how they work with everything. And I think there are like 80 people or something like that work at Buffett at the moment. Which is a pretty sizable company. And quite interesting in how they kind of work with everything. So every decision or major decision they put up publicly, and like why they did certain things and why they decided to do, for instance, 1 yearly company trip instead of 2 company trips a year and things like that. So that's quite interesting. And also their salary is also public, and how they calculate the salary of people. And I find that quite admirable because, well, at least in my opinion, and I think it also other people's opinion, it's salary is more. It's of course it's somewhat of a motivating factor, but an increase in salary is only a motivating factor in like right after you've gotten it, because then it becomes the norm. Yeah, salary can more be a demotivating factor if you get less than other people in your same position. So I think so taking salary kind of out of the equation of what is the competition, and instead being like, okay, so this is the salary, we can compete on a lot of other things instead. So like, for instance, as a programmer, like salary is of course nice, but I would not take a job just because the salary is high, because the salary is not what makes me happy long term. What I'm working with and the environment around what I'm working with is what makes me happy. If I'm valued less than other people, of course that will make me angry, so that will demotivate me, but I will not be more happy just because I get a higher salary. So I think that's a very wise decision that they did in terms of like making that public as well, and also because then you don't have to like, you're holding grudges, or you don't kind of know what it is. And I kind of like having salaries being open. Instead of like having employees not being able to talk about these things with each other, but actually knowing what and how and what is the landscape, because that's also a thing that I don't particularly like about how you've also been doing it, and also how other people have been. Like, that is of course the norm, so that is also why we've been doing it like that, but I would like to try and experiment with doing it other ways. But that is like, it is the norm, and that's what we're used to, like salaries being something you don't talk about. But yeah, I think I would like to see a world where we do. and it's like the norm to talk about.
Yeah.
Of course, you can still be jealous about it, but there's also a very good, if there's a good reason to why people get a certain amount in salary, then I don't think people get that jealous. They might be like, okay, then it's fair, then it makes sense, right? Because like how they do it is they say you get the 50th percentile of what is the norm for like the job you're having in San Francisco. So that's what they base all the salary on. And they say like, okay, so if you live in San Francisco, then you get 100% of that. If you live in Denmark, for instance, which is not as expensive to live in as in San Francisco, then you get 85% of that.
Yeah.
If you live something where it's even cheaper to live, then you get 75% of that. And like so on. So it's like like the living expense is also like a part of this calculation that they do, and I think that's quite interesting. So you're not like limited, but also you don't like need a crazy amount of salary, like high salary, if you're living in India, for instance, or if you're living in Copenhagen. It differs how much you need.
Yeah, makes sense.
And also because of the taxes, of course.
Yeah. So one more question, at least for me, is that let's say you've lived an amazing life, and you're gonna take all that with you, and your memories and everything with you, but you're allowed to leave one message for to pass on to the future generations and to
as you do.
The new nesters, maybe still going, maybe old nest, like this is nest. We're old and it's still rocking. I'm still gonna be there for sure.
That's good. That's good. What would I leave behind? What message? I think I would put an emphasis on like on alignment, but also both on alignment, but also like with people that you're going into anything that can be a relationship, but can also be a partnership with people that you're going to be working with or something like that. As long as like, because it's very important that you're all on the same page, but also down the line.
Yeah.
And also very much in terms of what is your priorities and making sure that you kind of what your priorities are, or at least figuring out like at some point, like instead of being like, okay, so money is nice, but like why do you want the money? Like what does that, for instance, bring you in happiness, or does it bring you happiness? Or is it actually like do you actually want the money because you need the money to do something else or be enabled to do something else? And then that might be a priority and very well like established for you. But I think it's a good idea and good exercise to kind of like be okay. So being very motivated at work is a very high priority for me. Being happy at work or just happy in general, might not be the highest prioritized feeling or thing in your life, but it might be the third or something like that. But just at least figuring out what is the priority between like these kind of things, and what are you willing to sacrifice, if it's for maybe 2 years or 3 years or just like a year or something like that, to gain what. Because it might because your priorities might say, okay, it makes sense for you to go stressed for like 2 years because you will then most likely accomplish having like a lot of money that you can then use to take a lot of vacation, which will then bring you a lot of happiness. Or it will allow you to not have to work that much going forward because you can use it to gain interest on it or dividends on stocks or something like that because you're investing it. There's like so suffering might be the correct decision to do sometimes, but having like prioritizing and knowing why you're doing different things, I think is very important.
So knowing yourself.
Yeah, I think just knowing yourself in terms, not necessarily like what are your goals, but knowing like your priorities and why you're doing different things. Yeah, I think that is I think it's a good exercise at least, and it's also good to keep in mind. Why am I doing these things that I'm doing, instead of just like blindly doing things can also be nice sometimes, but but you're most likely always making a decision because you have some certain priorities, and thinking them and writing them down is a good exercise, because then you are more certain of your decisions, but also why you're doing things is a nice thing to know. Yeah. Or you can very easily say like, no, that doesn't, like, for instance, I can't do this extra thing at work that people want me to do, or take this extra project, or say yes to this extra thing, because this is not a priority for me. Because, for instance, right now I'm stressed, and being stress-free is a higher priority than pleasing other people. For instance, for me, that is so. For instance, in my with me, I was stressed, and I said yes to being chairman. But that was because Nest is a very high priority to me. And seeing that Nest thrives and it works for me, it's a very high priority to me compared to it not like going that well. And like compared to me like being stressed. So that's why I said yes, and also why I wanted to take the mantle, you can say. So that's like also an example of like why doing certain things. But still be mindful about it, because you can also end up taking way too much if you're not at least mindful about your decisions.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. Really a great lecture of life. Well, I think that was it for today. I just want to give a high five and maybe a hug afterwards. But awesome. And guys, we hope you learned something, and we can't wait for the next episode. Please let us know in the comments if you got more questions, if you got anything you want to change around, or if you have more questions for our chairman and living legend, then let us know. See you next time. Nest Talks is over.
Nice.